Kadosh Boker or Masechet Avodah Zarah Daf Yomi Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph 76a1. We're just going to start on the bottom of 75b, where it says that Kulan Yishtamesh B'hem Ad Shelo Lo Yatbil V'Shelo Yagil V'Shelo Yilaben. What happens right now if you use a utensil before doing Tevilah, before doing Haggalah, or before doing Libun? So Tani Chada Asur V'Tani Yidach Mutar. One Tana said that it's going to be Mutar, and the other Tana said that the food is going to be Asur. So the Gemara says, how could it be? Is it Asur or Mutar? Make up your mind. Yeah, all ken or lo. So he says, la kashia, it's not a question. Hakamandamar notentam nivgam as asur. Hakamandamar notentam nivgam mutar. It all depends whether mandamar notentam nivgam mutar or asur. If notentam nivgam is mutar, as a ochel mutar, right? Obviously. If you're going to tell me notentam nivgam is asur, the ochel is going to be asur. Yeah, very simple. Says the Gemara, mandamar notentam nivgam mutar. But according to the mandamar that says notentam nivgam is going to be mutar, what's the case of Giulev of the Chachamim? Right? You came and used the pot. Yeah, it's always going to be mutar of the food. So he says, Amar Rav Chia bered Rav Huna la'asra Torah ela kedera bat yoma. You're right. It's kedera bat yoma. Meaning stam kelim is enam ben yoma. When you take a kli of a goy, stam kli is enam ben yoma. But if you know that it is ben yomo, which means that they used it the same day within the 24 hours, so then be'emet, it's going to be asur. Yeah, so says the Gemara, fine. But after you've already used it, what's the Yisur then? Mikam va'elach, yishtere. It passed 24 hours. Now use it. So he says, no. Kedera shena bat yoma, mishum kedera bat yoma, which means that we're never going to allow the shimush of a kedera shena bat yoma because of a kedera bat yoma. Yeah? You understood the question, but the question was, okay, fine, you take a kli of a goy, wait 24 hours, and from then on, always you just use it. You don't even have to kosher it. Why? So he says, no, Gezerah atu ben yoma. Ve'idach and the other braita, he says, Kedera bat yoma nami mifkam pagama. He says, even a Kedera bat yoma is also going to be pogem the tafshil. So since the Torah told you that you still needed to be machshir kli midyan, you learn from there that noten tam nivgam is going to be asur. So therefore, there's no difference between kelim ben yoman or she'eno ben yoman. So that's his shita, the way that he learned it. So to mean that he learned that noten tam nivgam is asur from the fact that you still had to be kosher, right? All the kelim of Midyan. Remember when we conquered Midyan, there was a whole bunch of kli Midyan, and that's where we learn all the halachot of Hagalat kelim and Tvilat kelim. So Rami le Rav Amram le Rav Sheshat asks Rav Amram to Rav Sheshat, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hashipudi v'askela, remember the skewers, and the askela was the roasting racks, right? Milabna ma'ur. So you're going to come and you're going to have to use the fire to burn it. But Tanan, gabe kochim, but we learn to do with kochim, hashipu v'askela, magilam bechamin. Askela is a roasting racks. No, shipud ze a skewer, ze shipudim, v'askela ze a reshet shel roasting. Again, roasting racks, the trays. You know, the kilu sheta samet advarim, the grill where you put it on top. Again, a reshet. So that's the question. The question is, why are you telling me, right? Why are you telling me that you have to do libun, right? Here it's enough. Hagala, magilam bechamim. That's the question. You don't have to do libun. So Elmaleh comes and he answers him. Amram beri, Amram aisan, ma'inyan kochim etzel giulei avdot chavim. He says, ma kesher? Yeah, אתה לא יכול להקיש כל דבר. Yeah. 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 זה שתי דברים שונים. אומרים, זה צווי דינים. זה שתי הלכות שונות. מה הכוונה? הכה היתר הבלה, אתה מסור הבלה. He says by קודשים, זה היתר. You're right, קודשים is special, because only the Kohanim could eat it, וכו' וכו', but it's a kol mutar, it's a kol היתר. And there's no isur there. Here, it's shel goyim, זה הכל isur. So Amar Rava says, okay, fine. But I still don't understand you. Sof ki kapalit, isur kapalit. At the end of the day, when the kli is going to be polet a tam, it's still going to be tam of isur, right? So therefore, what does that mean now? During the time the shata bliya was heter, but right now it's asur. I'm not allowed to have this. It's only for the kohanim. So he says, Elamar Rava, but rather Rava says, "My hagala nami the shtifa umrika." He says when it said over there to do with kodshim hagala, the kavanah of the Mishnah was actually that it does need libun. because hagala there means mirika shtifa, which means, right, that you have to actually come and you have to take it out. How do you take it out? Only through libun. That's the only way. Anything which is through the heat, you take it out through the heat, right? So therefore, you're going to have to do libun. So ask Sabaye, Amale Abaye midami. Can you come and you tell me? Well, that's what we're going to ask right now. Right? The Gemara is going to say, midami, can you compare both cases? Merika shtifa is bitzonen. Whenever we talk about merika shtifa, that's always cold water, right? Hagala is with hot water. So what are you talking about then? The entire thing doesn't mean, what does it mean now that ki'ilu hagala, merika shtifa, that's not hagala, right? Merika shtifa there is not, he says that's going to be in cold, one is going to be in hot. So he says, Ela amar Abaye, but rather Abaye comes and he says, Yagid alav re'o. This friend is going to tell you the answer. What does that mean? Yagid alav re'o, many times you want to know of something, you find out from the friends. Right? To go to the friends, you're going to find out all the information. So he says, Tana hacha libun. Vehu adin la'agala. Tana hata magala. Vehu adin libun. Right? What does that mean? Our Tana taught that you need libun. But really, be'emet, the same exact halacha teaches you could do agala. What's the proof? From the Merika Shtifa, from Kodshim. So he says, over there by Kodshim, it taught you hagala. But huadin, you could do libun, just like we learned from our Mishnah. So it comes out that whether to do with Gilulei of the Kochovim or to do with Kodshim, right? You need also, right, Lilabenet HaKelim and also hagala. Meaning you have to mamash, you need both of them in order to come and to take it out. It's not just enough, right? One of them. You need both. Okay? I mean, zelo maspik echad. You need both of them in order to take it out. You need gam agala vegam libun. So the Gemara is going to ask on this, Amar le Rava, if so, how could that be? Just teach everything in the same Mishnah. So if you're going to tell me that you need both, gam agala vegam libun, teach it in the same Mishnah. That you need both. Velitni chada, right? Bida chachriti. And then just teach one of the other ones, and then say Yagid alav re'o. It doesn't make sense that each one is missing half of the puzzle. You understand? Meaning, it doesn't make sense. And then what? Now you put them both together. Yeah, how does that work? If you're going to tell me that they're both written by one, and then Yagid alav re'o, okay, fine, you could do that. But not that each one has half the picture, half the story. Ela mar Rava, but rather Rava comes and he says, Kodshim anu tamayu, the reason of Kodshim, why you don't need libun, is like Rav Nachman amar Ravua, De'amar kol yom vayom, na'asa giul lechavero. He says you don't need, right? He comes and he says the reason why you don't need libun is he comes and he says that each one is going to completely destroy the other one, which means that until they actually use it, it's already completely it's taken out, and therefore there's never any sur on the tam which is left over in the keli. Every time that you use it, it's doing like a new libun. So you don't have anything there. So there's no problem whatsoever. This is like, for example, many times it happens, right? I remember that we had this case in France. In France, right, we went to the mountains. In the mountains, you want to get pâte Israël. How are you going to get pâte Israël? So what happened was my friend went, right? He went to a bakery, La Boulangerie, right? And what he did over there is that he went and they basically, he put in the wood inside of the oven, and then that's it. Now the problem though is that he had to find out what breads would they make. So there was one bread that used to be sach, shemen chazid, on the bread. So the so the she'ela, are we then allowed to? But it was never at the same time. So what? It was in betweens. But the oven was always on. The oven was never turned off. Right? Very good. So when we went and we asked of Asher Westheim, right? No, Rav Asher Westheim. We asked Rav Asher Weiss. When we asked Rav Asher Weiss, what happened is that he told us that in between each one, since it was a real oven, it wasn't one of these electrical ovens. It was a yamamash ish, a real fire. Yeah. So it's melabenet that's small in between each one. Each one is already libun. So he says you don't have to worry about it. So as long as it's not going to be in the same time, which meaning he was there watching the entire process, and he said as long as it's not going to be in the same time, so you could buy the regular bread, What do you mean by that? You want to use what? Pizza oven. You want to use a pizza oven? Yeah, in between each one. As long as it's done libun, yeah, but that's libun. The libun, it's libun again. Yeah, 100%. It's a real fire. We're not talking about electrical or whatever it is. Opening and closing what? And therefore? No. The second that you take out the bread, they always close the oven. They never leave the oven closed for whatever amount. And that in itself, until they're going to come and bring in the new batch. It's a constant fire.
Get it. It's a
Few seconds.
That's it. Why are we all knocking on Pesach to do 3 hours something?
So says the Gemara, each one is going to do a giul lechavero. Ma zot giul lechavero? It's going to be machshir et chavero. So tenach shlamim, that's going to be good to do with the basar shlamim. They've given the shnei yamim mitachle. Remember that the shlamim is written shnei yamim velayla echad. Mikame denavi notar kavi giul. So even before the notar, there's already a gala, right? Which means that you're going to have this concept of purifying it. Ella chatat. What about the chatat? Given the yom v'layla mitachla, since it's going to be yom v'layla, kim vashel ba'ina, when you're cooking it right now, the chatat, havi notar, it's already a notar. Ki hadar mevashel ba'lemachar shoshim or shlamim or chatat. If you're going to do the next day the shlamim or chatat, kapali notar de chatat v'ayina, right? And then you're going to have the chatat or shlamim de lemachar. So it's going to be asur. Why? Because you don't have the eted. It's going to be notar by tomorrow. Remember, notar is leftovers, and you're not allowed to eat notar. So he says, Amri, he says, lo tzricha. When you're already cooking first the chatat, you're going to do afterwards the shlamim in the same day. And therefore the basar shlamim is already a giul for the chatat. And therefore the chatat never becomes notar because you already have the shlamim now. And the shlamim doesn't become notar until another day. So you have like an extra day. Right, 1 second. The chatat lemacharu shlamim de tmol behadi adadi kashelim zamanayu. He says because the chatat of tomorrow and the shlamim of yesterday, they're finishing at the same time. So therefore, since they're going to be finishing at the same time, you don't have that problem. Then you're going to have the shlamim of the next day. So therefore, it's always going to be a hagala, right, of the next day. So you don't have this problem of notar. So says, if so, hagala nami lo bai. So then you don't even need to do the hagala then. What's your problem then? So kasha, so really be'emet, this is a good question. Because if be'emet you're going to explain like this, you don't have to do a hagala. Even without the hagala, it's already going to be fine. Right? But Rav Papa comes and he wants to say, Hai karid, v'hai lo karid. He wants to say like this. He wants to say that the bliyav, the ovekochavim, since they don't use it constantly, so the bliya becomes hardened inside of it. And therefore goes in the entire utensil. And therefore it doesn't come out through hagala, it only comes out through libun. But the klei kochim, since they're always using it, it never hardens. And therefore that's why it's much easier for it to come and to come out with hagala. Meaning, right now we're choser banu, according to the answer of Rav Papa. And Rav Papa says, no. He says, by kochim, you only need hagala. Why? It's constant use. In constant use, it never could be able to mamash to ingrain itself inside of the utensil. So therefore, to get out of it, it's very easy. You do hagala, boom, you get out of it. By the libun, right, you need it only when it's mamash, it's hardened. It's mamash hard inside, deep inside. When is that? By the kelim of the goyim. That is the answer of Rav Papa. Ravashi comes and he says, yeah, leolam kedamra mikara. Really, be'emet is like the answer that we said at the beginning. It depends whether it's eter or yisur. So you asked the question, the beginning of the kapalit, yisura kapalit. He says when it's going to take out the yisur, it's already tam yisur, meaning even though it's eter bala, but when you are going to come and take this, it's an yisur for you, right? What do I care that it's bolea heter? For you, you're not a kohen. So for you, it's an isur. So what do I care about now, right? What's bala? When it's going to take it out, it's going to be tam of isur. So be'ina de kapali lo itili isur bene. By the time when it's coming out, there's no isur. It's not ben. There's nothing. It's only bliot. So therefore, since it's only bliot, there's no problem whatsoever. So therefore, according to this, now we have the different answers. If you look in the footnote, you see the footnote on the bottom. Hechsher shipud v'askela. Yeah, you have it over there. It says Rav Sheshat. So Rav Sheshat was the first answer, right? And Rav Sheshat comes and he says, Hetera bala v'isura bala. So therefore, that's why he says Libun and Agala, right? We asked the question, which was Rava, right? So Rava actually gives two different answers. The first answer of Rava, right, is that what is Agala? Shtifa Merikas. I mean, according to Rava, you need both. You need Libun on both. Abaye came and he said, right, no, you don't need Libun on both. You need Libun and Hagala on both. That was the answer of Abaye. You need both Libun and Agala. And then we started asking, so why didn't you mention each one? You should have mentioned both in one Mishnah instead of Yagid alav Reo. Rava then comes and he answers a second answer, that each day it's a new Haggalah, and therefore that's why by Ovdei Kochavim it's Libun, and by Kochim it's Haggalah, because the Haggalah, by the Kochim, every single day it's a new Haggalah. And then we started asking on that one, and then finally we answered the Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, right, that basically that it does it harden inside or not, and therefore what do you need? For Kochim you need Haggalah, because it doesn't harden inside, and for Giulei Ovdei Kochavim you need Libun. Okay? Fine. So he says that Kamam Labnan, how long do you have to do libun for? So Amr Ramani says, Achetashikli patan, which means you have to take out the outer layer because of the chom, because of the heat. Right? So he comes and he says, right? Okay, by the way, look at the footnote. That's where he says Nitzuzon Nitzazim Makli, and that's how we paskin. They say the poskim say that they're both the exact same thing. Right? So he comes and he says now, right, as follows. So he says, right? V'ketzar magilan. How do you do agala? Ravuna says yorek tana b'toch yorek gdula. You put a smaller pot into a bigger pot, right? In the footnote, by the way, it also says that libun always helps for agala. That whenever you need to do agala, you could always do libun. You don't need to do hagala. So says the Gemara, yorek gdula mai. Okay, fine, but what do you do if you have too big of a pot? You don't have another pot to put it in. So tashma dahu duda. David Rav Akiva. There was a big pot that was in the house of Rav Akiva. Okay, v'hada lei. Right? Ayin Vav Mubet. Yeah, 76b. Gedanfa delisha apuma. So he put around it batzek, right? Around the Sfat Elyon. Umalya ma'yavertecha. Then he put water inside of it and he boiled it up. And therefore, by doing so, right, what happens is it's going to go over the utensil. Once it goes over the utensil, it's going to kosher the outside of the pot. Because basically the concept is you have to kosher the inside and the outside. How do you kosher the outside? You're only koshering the inside. So if you overflow it, it's also going to kosher the outside of the pot as well. So Rava says, "Man chakim lemeva kiaminta." Who's chacham to do such a thing, to put the seed zoche yora acheret? Ilav Rav Akiva. If it wasn't Rav Kavya, the Gavra Rabahu. Sorry, it was also Rav Kavya. And I said Rav Akiva. Oh, it was Rav Kavya. I don't know. I said Rav Akiva. Sorry, Rav Kavya. So he comes and he says, if it wasn't going to be Rav Kavya, he says, "Kasavar kebolo kach polto." Mabol o benitzot, avpolto benitzot. I mean, it's just like Bliata Yisur, right? Was done through the tipot rotchin, which was mamash, that gets inside of it during the time of Bishul. So too, when you're getting it out, it's going to be the same thing, right? Also, the exact same way how to get it out as well. Kibolo kapolto. That's a very famous concept in halacha, right? Of koshering things. Kibolo kapolto. Okay, fine. Next, we see about the sakin. In the Mishnah, if you remember, we spoke about the sakin, which is basically all you have to do is you have to sharpen it, and then it's going to become Torah. So Amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama v'noatza asra pa'amim bekarka. This is called neitza bekarka, and it has to be davka karka betula. Right? Amar Rav Huna ben Yeshua bekarka shena avodah. Karka which was never worked upon. So that's why I said it's karka betula, because it was never worked upon. Okay, so you have to come and you have to stab it into the ground 10 times, right? And again, in karka, we're talking about that it was never worked. So Amar Rav Kahana says, usakin yafa shem bagumot, right? Plus, it only helps if it's a nice sakin that does not have any gumot, it doesn't have any holes or anything like that. Why? Because if not, it's going to get stuck, the shamnunit, right? I mean, basically it's only going to help take away, right, with tocha gumot shel sakin, that which is not something which is inside the gumot, only in the outer surface, right? Nowadays, by the way, they speak about Scotch Brite. If you clean it with Scotch Brite, is that already considered like niitza bekarka? So a lot of people want to say yes, because that's like the Neitza Karka of once upon a time. So Rav Huna ben Yeshua says, Rav Huna ben Yeshua, le'echol batzonen, and this is only in order to eat cold. Meaning we're not talking about you're going to use the knife with hot, we're only talking about that you're going to use it with cold. Ki Adam or Yehuda, just like Mor Yehuda, Obati Bartuga, V'yat v'kamed Shvul Malka, they were in front of Shvul Malka, the king of Shavur. Aitel Kamayo Etroga, they brought the etrog in front of the king, Pasak, he cut it, ve'achal, and he ate. Pasak, then he cut and he gave it to him to Bati Bartuvi. Hadar datsa asra zim nebara. So after he did that, he went and he put it 10 times into the ground. Pasak kavle, right, Mor Yehuda, and then again he gave it to Mor Yehuda. Okay, here you won't say that it's considered davar kharif. Yeah, no, that it's considered that it's a lemon. Lemon is davar kharif. So because of that, he wants to say that it's going to be a problem. So therefore, what did he do? He went and he cut it again, and then he gave it to Mor Yehuda. Obviously, we're gonna have to find out, does it help or not help the the neitza? and therefore that's why he came and he said this. And Bezat Hashem will leave the last little few lines, right, for the Siyum Bezat Hashem.